My name is Jean-François Soussana. I'm currently the Vice Chair of INRAE, which is the French National Institute for Research on Agriculture, Food and Environment. I did my full career as a researcher, interested by ecosystems, initially the grassland ecosystems, their management, their role for climate change, and the impacts of climate change, also connected with their biodiversity. And I gradually realized how big was this role of soil carbon for the climate, and what was this big potential for climate mitigation in agriculture, forestry, through soil carbon. I became an expert for IPCC over the last 20 years for several IPCC reports. And here again, this allowed me to understand this role of soils, both in terms of adaptation to climate change and mitigation. I was the scientific director for environment of my institute. Former name was INRA at the time of the COP21. And the French Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Le Foll, was keen to launch something at that time, showing the positive role of agriculture. And I tried my best to create a sort of rationale, scientific rationale for the initiative. And this was communicated very early on, prior to the COP21. And with colleagues from CIRAD, from IRD, sister institutes in France, we worked on this rationale, and we could, I think, frame a bit the thinking of this Focus Housing initiative. I've been working certainly with the initiative, but also trying to build this research aim of this. And we were in charge of European-funded project, Coordination and Support Action. The name is CASA, in Horizon 2020. And this project has been instrumental in framing the design of an international research consortium on soil. We know now how to do it. We know what is the technical potential. It's very big. It is not something that requires high technologies. What needs to be done is essentially bringing back more organic matter to soils, so avoiding bare soils, having some crop residues, having some litter, and sometimes increasing the plant productivity, the productivity of the vegetation. All this is well understood. But there are some real roadblocks, and the roadblocks for the farmers, they are mostly seen as issues about funding, issues about how they should fit their local cropping system or farming system. And the third thing which comes quite often with stakeholders is how will you measure it? And how can you then pay farmers for results they would get? And so this comes also strongly, and that's a roadblock, or at least science can be very effective to remove it. So we are working on all those directions, but I would like to say that we moved from a sort of theoretical vision of what could be done to something which is more developing the potential through the vast network that the Focus Housing Initiative has created, with so many members from so many horizons. And we now try to see how we can get results. First, through research projects. We still need some research. There are still things we need to improve our knowledge base. For instance, what can we do about stabilization of the soil carbon? Because you may lose what you have gained. So is it possible to have a better stability of your soil carbon? And how do you get there? There we will develop research goals. So the second part is really about removing that roadblock on monitoring, reporting, verifying soil carbon. So we would like to create an international standard working with several countries over all continents. The third one is about innovation, and it's a lot of interest also in the private sector about this. So we need to improve the machinery for those systems where you don't want to have tillage. We need to improve the crops, so plant breeding could help, having deep roots, having dense roots, having possibly perennial crops. And we would also need to improve the organic fertilizers, recycle more, in fact, organic matter, bring more organic matter back to the soil. So these are examples of innovation. And the fourth one, which is so big, is how do you make that knowledge actionable? How do you bring it to the farmers, to the users? What sorts of web apps, what sort of digital tools, what sort of fora, what sort of discussions can make it happen? And this is very much at the intersect with what the 4,000 is already doing, creating events, creating fora, creating tools for the stakeholders.